Hey guys, back with a replay I had in the WoW not too long ago, and a lot of people have been asking me how to play certain tanks, so I figured I'd just start with one of my most recent battles actually being earlier today. Sort of saving the replays, and I was in the WoW tank, and as I just told the team, I'm going towards the middle, which may not always be the best idea in the WoW because it is more of a long-range tank, being as it's, for this tier, the armor's fine. But if you get into a tier 9 or 10 game, you definitely want to snipe because you have a very accurate gun, which you're going to see in a minute. And your tank is a very large target for artillery as well. And I got lucky there's no artillery this game, hence it was not gunning for me, which helps a lot. So right now I have it in the mode that I was going around in, so I'm not moving the mouse at all. This is actually how I went out playing the game. And you'll see right off the bat the feats of the WoW's accuracy, where I actually can just getting some looks around the tank right now for everybody who doesn't know what the WoW looks like. But you can actually use auto aim a lot for this tank. There's one hit. The auto aim is actually pretty accurate for this tank because the accuracy is really, really high for a tier 8 heavy tank, let alone a heavy tank in general. But that being said, its damage is a little bit lower than the other tanks in the tier, but it has a decent reload with 100% crew and a rammer. I have a 10.3-second reload, which is a very good reload for. It has very high penetration as well. And seeing those lights in the medium, I just figured I was just going to barrel straight down into the middle and let the team deal with that, because if I get bogged down in that for too long, someone's going to come down the middle, or I just will get surrounded and taken out due to superior rate of fire on the WoW. Because, as I said before, it is not a very agile tank. You definitely want to avoid close quarters, but on this map I wanted to try something different, because I've never actually tried this with the WoW before, and it actually works pretty well, because being that the WoW can pivot in place, so when you turn left and right, it doesn't pull forward or backwards. You can actually turn pretty well in an area like this, and it makes close range fighting a little bit easier. You know, that being said, again, unless you have some experience in WoW, I wouldn't really recommend getting into close range engagements. And there I match off another WoW. Now you have to be careful when you fight another WoW because it has a very powerful turret. Actually, I'll show you. This whole part of the turret on the front is very, very powerful. Now, if you manage to get an angle shot and you hit this little tiny, tiny little flat area on the side of the gun, that is not very well armored, and also as well, the top part of the mantlet is actually pretty easy to get through. But as for everything else on the front of the turret, it's pretty invulnerable for most everything besides high tier guns with a explosive gold ammo. Explosive or gold ammo. You can see where the WoW hit me right here, which is obviously kind of a lucky shot because normally that would kind of bounce off, would kind of ricochet right off. So I suspect right off the bat that he's probably using gold. So I need to be a little bit careful with him. But something you do need to be aware of in an engagement like this, where I'm coming around the corner, the WoW's lower Glacius blade is very, very large. And with most German heavies or German tanks in general, you can hit the lower right side of the, that's your lower left side because you're looking at it like this. But from your perspective, shooting at the WoW, the lower right side of the plate is very high chance of catching it on fire. And while I'm at it, I want to go ahead and point out another weakness of the WoW is these little cable straps on the side of the tank, on either side. If you hit anywhere in between these cable straps, right here on these two little brackets above the tracks, you're almost guaranteed an ammo rack, as well as the ammo rack door on the back of the tank. And I'm going to continue. Now, right there, I actually did just get shot in the back by a T-25-2. Yeah, T-25-2 shot me in the back of the turret. I luckily did not get ammo rack, but he did take a good 200-something health away from my tank, which isn't a big deal considering I have pretty high health, and I don't know what that LAV was doing. He was going to back off the cliff, and he was going to end up blowing himself up. But, I mean, it's not a big deal. I was kind of upset that the guy shot me, and he explained himself. Obviously, he wasn't trying to team kill me, and I was just like, yeah, I know, it's fine, it happens. I wanted to type a little bit more, but I was busy, and I was engaged in these tanks. And actually, something else I want to point out real quick is the Russian heavy tanks. They have giant fuel tanks on the back of their tanks. Now, obviously, if you're coming in from the side, you don't want to shoot this, but if you're coming from behind, you want to shoot that. But a lot of the Russian tanks have fuel tanks right here, or just external fuel tanks right there, and you can shoot them right there and set them on fire pretty easily. Or you can shoot them in the side of the turrets, which are still pretty well rounded, but are pretty paper thin, and it does make it a little bit easier to get through. Let's see if I can't pull forward, get another shot right here on the back of him. See, there's that little hump on the back of the tank. That's a KV3. I got a little bit unlucky on that shot. I kind of pressed it. I didn't hesitate to shoot. I just kind of went at it, and unfortunately kind of side-scraped his armor there. I repaired my loader because I just now realized he was dead, and the IS-3 starts coming at me. I get a shot. I think that shot actually broke his fuel tank in the end. And what you're going to see is a really dumb mistake by the IS-3 by trying to ram into me. Because the IS-3 weighs like 40-something tons, and I weigh 90 tons. So an IS-3 even coming at me at 5 kilometers an hour is going to be a big, big pain and damage for him. Tail KV3. Fortunately, he hits me in some relatively easy spots in the front armor. They got some shots in right there. I think I've been hit once in the turret. And I have another shot in the side of my turret. To continue on the replay, I'm going to use this dead IS-3 as cover as I'm maneuvering around with this KV-3. Now the issue being is that this is such soft terrain around here that the Löwe has some issues getting around on it because of how much it weighs compared to how powerful the engine, which is a really powerful engine. Like I was saying earlier, this is a very, very good tank for ramming, getting in someone's face. And so what I went ahead and did, my first perk is actually controlled impact on the driver. And that in my opinion is a very good perk for this tank, because even though it might not get that fast, I can get like 30 kilometers an hour. But controlled impact getting 15% more damage, even at 30. You saw that IS-3 was going maybe 6 or 7 kilometers, and I was going about 2 or 3, and I still managed to ram into him and get a good 200 damage before a teammate finished him off. And this is where the Löwe's superior accuracy really comes in handy, because look how small that aiming circle is while I'm aiming at the KV3. He has no chance against me, because while I'm maneuvering around, he's trying to aim for my lower plate, and then maneuvering around the IS-3 using him as cover. And it was working out pretty well, because I could aim for all the weak spots on his tank, or that last part where he was just pulling a full special and backing up the hill and giving me full exposure to his top armor. And right about here is where I realized, hey, most of my team is dead. I don't really understand what happened, because I literally took the middle, like, singularly alone, and everybody died on the left flank. The right flank managed to push through a little bit, but the right flank does kind of fail a little bit later on in this match, as I'm struggling to get some shots without throwing out my tank out there to get it hit, because I am at 450 points, so I have to avoid the Hellcats and the Hellcat and the T50, T25, because I know those can take chunks out of my health in a good 6 seconds with that 90 mil, because they may ricochet, but if they're firing gold rounds like I would suspect they would against the Löwe, being that I am like 1 or 2 tiers higher than them, then they would be able to penetrate. And then the T34, which actually becomes an issue later. The T34 is like the American version of the Löwe tank, except it has a bigger turret. And as far as I can tell, it goes a little bit faster, not a whole lot faster, because it does way less, and its gun does more alpha damage, but I have a much higher wheel speed, being about 3 seconds faster, for only about 50 or 60 less damage, and we both have really good penetration right here. We both have really good hold down positions because we have powerful turrets. But the T34 plays more like the American heavies, whereas the Löwe plays a lot like a King Tiger, or a just Tiger 1, because you have to stay back and snipe, because your armor's not all that reliable in a higher tier match. In a tier 8 match, I can kind of be a little bit lenient with my armor, but like in a match like this, but when I get a tier 9 or 10 match, see, there was the T34 just hit me, knocked out my gunner. But in a match like this, I can kind of rely on my armor a little bit more, because 120, and it is a pretty decent slope in the front. It is pretty good. And where did that T34 hit me? Yeah, see, he whacked me straight in that little chubby cheek part of the turret. You can hit anywhere in that little chub cheek part of the turret. It's actually pretty lowly armored compared to the rest of the turret. And this is where you can see the adversary standoff between the tier 8 premiums, is that we're all good at our own certain thing, but when it comes to the Löwe and the T34, they're almost identical tanks, except for I am much larger, hence being better for ramming, as I said earlier. And at this point, because I can't see him and I don't want to leave the hill, I'm just going to try and knock out those buildings before they capture, because we only have one guy on cap. Let's look at the replay a little bit more. There's the T-34, he's dodging in and out of cover, trying to get in between houses. Lands one last shot, and I end that game with 5,099 damage, 2 kills, a whole bunch of assists. I got a mastery badge, tank, sniper, cool-headed, and one more thing. I don't think it was a steel wall. I was one hit shy of getting a steel wall, but I had another medal. I don't remember what it was, but that, all in all, is a good way to play Lao, especially near the end of the replay where you see more of I'm using the high-powered gun for very, very accurate sniping for tier 8 heavy tanks. And this is a good tank. It is a little bit on the expensive side, but on this round I did make 157,000 credits, and that is a lot of credits off of a not even 10-minute game. I mean, it was a good game, and it was unnaturally good for a Lao. Usually they don't get more than 3,000, 4,000 damage, but it is a good game with the Lao, and you can make a good, easy 40, 50,000 credits off of each match in the Lao, just getting a good 1,000, 2,000 damage, whether you do all that fantastic or not. It is a fantastic money maker, and also because it has a lot of crew slots, you can train your German heavy crews on it, which is also a very good idea, especially if you're going for the E100 or the mouse, or maybe you're just going for credits. Either way, the Lao is a very good premium tank, and I'll be doing some more video replays on some of the other tanks as I go through and I have some time to make replays, and I'll see you in the next video.